If you listen to government leaders in Myanmar, this week was supposed to see a trickle of Rohingya refugees returning to these new repatriation centers in Rakhine State. They said from Tuesday the centers were open and ready to receive. But the other country in this equation, Bangladesh, said incomplete paperwork for the refugees is causing a delay. No word on just how long. Some human rights groups think it's much more than paperwork.
The fundamental problem is that all these operations have been set up, these plans have been devised, these negotiations have been done, leaving the refugees outside the door. And they haven't been consulted, they haven't been talked to, and many of the refugees are simply too afraid to go back anywhere near the Burmese military.
Also this week, the launch of a new commission to follow up from a group headed by former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. Members both from Myanmar and abroad are supposed to implement recommendations and advise on the Rohingya crisis. But even before their first trip to Rakhine, the highest profile member, Bill Richardson, resigned. The former U.S. diplomat, described as a friend of leader Aung San Suu Kyi, abruptly left after a heated exchange with her. Richardson said that he left the commission because it was a whitewash and that Aung San Suu Kyi lacked moral leadership. Well, government officials said that they dismissed him because he was here only to pursue his own agenda. A remaining member of the commission rebuffed Richardson's resignation, saying the Myanmar government is both serious and listening to the commission.
Well, obviously he didn't check with us before he made that statement, and I think it's very unfortunate. He didn't join most of our proceedings since 2 days ago, and in any case it was not the intention of the advisory board to make final conclusions this week.
One member of the Kofi Annan Commission from Myanmar gave us his view of Richardson's departure and the need for better transparency.
He's a man to be reckoned with. I think this is a little bit of a drawback, but we can move on. We should take criticism, and if there is anything that we need to correct, we should do that. And if there is nothing wrong, we should prove it by facts and figures. And in order to do that, the basic fact is that you need people to go to that area.
But that hasn't happened. Rakhine remains heavily controlled by the military. Humanitarian groups, the UN, and media are still not allowed free access to Rakhine. So refugees hoping to return have to rely on limited information to make very important decisions. Scott Heidler, Al Jazeera, Yangon.